Modern neuroscience tells us that instead of writing down things we're thankful for in a journal, simply listening to and connecting with positive stories about people can better help shift our immune system into balance. It can help us move from a state of constant anxiety towards motivation. So 3 days a week, I'm sharing stories we can feel good about. Mondays, you'll hear a story from the past to be thankful for. On Wednesdays, I'll tell an inspiring story from the present. And Fridays, you'll head into the weekend with a story to keep you optimistic about our future. Hi, I'm Chris. Welcome to My Good 3. All right, happy Monday, everybody. So, with another presidential election right around the corner, without leaning left or right, I thought today we could touch on a story from the past about the power of the presidency and the precedent that was set just as our country was born. This is a story about the American leader who held power and popularity at a time when America needed him most, who was beloved probably more than any leader has been in American history, and who multiple times gave all of that power away to protect the American promise. In the United States, George Washington is ubiquitous. Our capital is named after him, one of our 50 states, memorials, bridges, highways, 3 counties, 7 mountains, 9 colleges, 121 post offices, the list goes on. So we all know that he was the first president of the United States, and before that, he led the Continental Army and defeated the British, helping the United States gain independence. Most of us know that he then retired to Mount Vernon after he was president. In fact, many of us have visited Mount Vernon. But often, what people forget is exactly what he did. More accurately, what he didn't do that made George Washington so beloved as a leader and patriot. In September of 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed, effectively ending the Revolutionary War. Washington had just led the Continental Army to improbable victory, and there was no question he was the most powerful American at that point, having the respect of the Army, the Congress, and the American people. He could have done anything he wanted with America, but he categorically rejected the suggestion that he be named King of the United States. He believed strongly that the people should have the ultimate power, so he resigned his commission, handing power back to Congress in Annapolis, Maryland, and returned to farming at his home in Mount Vernon. At the time, because of this decision, England's King George III famously said that Washington was the greatest man in the world. A few years later, Washington's retirement was interrupted when he was the unanimous choice to lead the Constitutional Convention in 1787. In that role, he worked to develop what is now our Constitution, and when he was unanimously elected by the Electoral College to serve as our nation's first president, he reluctantly agreed. In his 2 terms as president, where he refused to take a salary, he developed a centralized federal government, the Federal Bank, and began a trade relationship with Great Britain. It was in 1796 that Washington again made the decision to put democracy above personal ambition. After 8 years in office, he voluntarily stepped down as President of the United States. Washington was concerned about the country being led by one president for too long. He believed that the growing differences between political parties would hinder progress, and he thought the country would be best served by a new leader, coming from a different state with a new perspective. So in 1797, John Adams was voted in as the second president of the United States, and once again, Washington retired to Mount Vernon, leaving America in the hands of the American people. There's a famous quote by Abraham Lincoln about men and power. He said, "Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power." What set George Washington apart was his unflinching character. It's a word we don't often use these days in politics, and as we head to the ballot box soon, we're going to place our vote with all sorts of things swirling around in our heads. Stances on policy, promises for change, proposals for a better way forward. America is a promise that we are still trying to live up to, and we will continue to look for the answers. But more valuable to America than politics and policy is a president with impeccable character. George Washington delivered when it mattered. He triumphed over adversity for our country. But what we should never forget is that it was what George Washington didn't do that exposed his character most. And for that, we should all be grateful. Thank you for listening. I realize this podcast won't be successful without your help. So if you'd like to rate it, or better yet, review it, wherever you get your podcasts, that would really help. And if you're on Instagram, go to @mygood3, THREE, to vote each episode up or down. I'm also excited to read more Good 3 stories from listeners. So just go to our website, mygood3.com, and submit a story of your own from the past, present, or future, or all three, and maybe I'll use it in an episode. Thanks again. Here's to hoping My Good 3 can set the stage for your good week.